כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם, לטהר אתכם מכל חטאיכם, לפני Hashem titharu. Yom Kippur is a gift to Klal Yisrael, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is willing to listen to our tefillos, listen to our vidui, and wipe the slate clean. I'd like to have a closer look at the central idea of Yom Kippurim, which is the idea of vidui. The classic statement of the vidui is in our Musaf davening, where we quote the text of the Mishnah. The Mishnah from Maseches Yuma, chapter 4, gives us the text of the vidui of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippurim. And this must have been one of the most dramatic highlights of the day. Of all the things the Kohen Gadol did, was the loudly pronounced vidui that the Kohen Gadol did 3 times, once for himself personally, once for the Kohanim, and finally for the whole of Klal Yisrael. And this is repeated in our Tfilas Musaf and is one of the most remarkable moments of the whole day. Let's have a bit of a closer look, really, at the first 3 words of the text of the vidui. Each one of them has got a remarkable significance for us on Yom Kippurim, and maybe we can, by looking at it a bit more closely, we can get a deeper sense of the depth and the meaning of the vidui. The first word is the word honor, Aleph Nun Aleph, an unusual word. We tend to think that it simply means honor, simply means the same as the word no, which means please. But actually, if we look at the Torah, we often find that whereas no means please, honor actually means please don't, in the sense of please don't let this person or these people suffer the consequences of their negative actions. And we find it really twice in the Chumash, in a very dramatic setting. One of them is in Parshas Kisisa, in Shemos chapter 32, where Moshe Rabbeinu was davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for forgiveness for the Egel HaZahav. And he starts off by saying, Ono chata om hazeh chata gedola, vayasu lahem Egel Elahei Masecha, Elahei Zahav. So Moshe Rabbeinu opens his tefillah on behalf of Klal Yisrael, asking for clemency from HaKadosh Baruch Hu with the word honor and stating the terrible thing that they have done. Asu lahem Elahei Zahav. So actually the idea of the vidui is to make absolutely clear that you know with absolute clarity what it is you've done wrong. And he starts off with this word honor. And clearly the honor of the Kohen Gadol is meant to be an echo of that honor of Moshe Rabbeinu, because the origin of Yom Kippur as a day of Slicha and Mechila comes in fact from the sense that if you look, Chazal tell us, if you look at the chronology of the Chumash, that Moshe Rabbeinu goes up for 40 days and comes down from Har Sinai after 40 days, and that's the moment of the Egel HaZahav, and then he spends another 40 days davening, and then he goes up for the second time to receive the second Luchot HaBrit. He goes up on Rosh Chodesh Elul, and he comes down on Yom Kippur. So Yom Kippur is actually a day of Matan Torah, of the second Luchot HaBrit, and they are a Luchot HaBrit which, in addition to giving Klal Yisrael the Torah, was also the clearest possible demonstration that the Chet of the Egel HaZahav had been forgiven. So in actual fact, this was the sign of Mechila, and that happened on the 10th of Tishrei. If he goes up on the 1st of Elul, 40 days later, the 10th of Tishrei, and therefore this day was chosen as the day of Slicha and Mechila, and the word honor is one of the words which makes that link more tangible, that Moshe Rabbeinu davens for forgiveness from that lapse into a seemingly momentary of idolatry, and Klal Yisrael were forgiven on Yom Kippurim, and therefore Yom Kippurim forever contains that potential that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will forgive Klal Yisrael for their averos. But there is a tanai, there is a condition. The condition is vidui. That vidui is, in fact, in a sense, the mafteach, the key that opens the potential of Yom Kippur. He says, honor Hashem. Now, of course, we say the word Hashem, He Shin Mem, which is a reference to the name of God. Of course, the Kohen Gadol said the Shem HaMafurash, the name that we don't know anything about at all. The ineffable name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chazal referred to it as the name of 42-letter name of God, which is completely unknown to us. but that was the name which when the people when they heard the name Hamafurish Yotze, Mipika and Gadol, they would bow down. That was a moment of total submission to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Wakeru Mishtachvin, as indeed we do on Yom Kippur, to capture again that moment, that we are at this moment when we say Vidui, we're standing before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're not saying confessions to any other human beings, we're confessing directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and this is a moment of... So here's an interesting thing. On the one hand, you would have thought a confession is a moment of guilt, and many people wrongly associate Yom Kippur with guilt, that all the al-chait and Hashem Bogadnu is meant to heighten our sense of guilt. This is not the case at all. Guilt is something negative. Guilt never produces any positive feelings or positive motivations. Guilt is only destructive. What you need is a sense of responsibility. When Moshe Rabbeinu says, honor, please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we take responsibility for what we've done. We're not trying to avoid, we're not in denial, we're not trying to say it wasn't bad. It was bad, and we did it, and we understand now that we made a mistake, we admit the mistake, and now we want to move ahead, and we want forgiveness for it. That is the vidui. So the vidui is the moment of responsibility. This is actually very clearly highlighted in the third word, Khatasi. Khatasi is actually a word from the Tanakh, and the Gemara asks an interesting question in Yomod of Kaf Beis. How is it that Shaul HaMelech, when he did one Aveira with Agag, he lost his Malchus, he lost his kingdom, and David HaMelech did more than one Aveira, and nevertheless he maintained his Malchus completely. So much so that he remains for us, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayom, and as Tzemach David Avdchom Hero Tatzmiach, that Mashiach comes from David HaMelech, and David HaMelech remains for us, despite his Aveirus, he remains for us a tremendous central figure for the future of Klal Yisrael. Ask the Gemara in Yom Kaf Beis, why is that? So various different explanations are given, but the key idea here is that when Shaul HaMelech is faced by Shmuel, tells him, you've done something wrong, his reaction is, it wasn't my fault, they made me do it. The people made me do it. And when David HaMelech is faced with the realization of the Aveira that he did with Bathsheba, the first word that comes out of his mouth is Khatasi. And this word Khatasi is the word that the Kohen Gadol used on Yom Kippurim, which is recorded in the Mishnah in the 4th chapter of Yoma, and which becomes part of our tefillah on Yom Kippur, and we are evoking that sense. We know we haven't lived the best life possible, spiritually speaking. We have done wrong things. We've said things we shouldn't say, we've got angry when we shouldn't got angry, we haven't given tzedakah when we should have given tzedakah, we haven't helped people we could have helped, we haven't davened when we could have davened, we haven't learned Torah when we could have learned Torah, we've done certain other, everyone has done things that they're not completely proud of. And now's the time to say to Kosh, you know what, Honor Hashem Khatasi, I know that I haven't lived the best possible life, and I regret it, and I resolve to upgrade my life spiritually, to improve, and that's called tshuva. Any small improvement is called tshuva. Should be a sustainable improvement, an improvement which can be preserved in one's life. They come out of every Yom Kippur knowing that you've said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are aware of what you've done wrong, and you're going to accept a better life spiritually in the future. That is Honor Hashem Khatasi, contains within it this formula of evoking Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah for the Egel Azav, the Shem Hashem, which is the greatest moment of Kedusha. Chazal say that when the Kohen Gadol said it, B'kol Rom, he said it so loudly that they heard his voice in Yericho. This might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it reverberated throughout the whole of Yerushalayim and all the environment, that they heard the Shem Hashem mentioned by the Kohen Gadol. This was a central moment, and Khatasi, of Isi Poshati, this is a moment of taking responsibility, of saying, whatever I've done wrong, I take full responsibility for it. In modern terms, I'd like to say to you, it's the exact opposite of this modern concept of victimhood and grievances, that somehow what I've done wrong is not my fault, it's the fault of society, it's the fault of earlier generations, the fault of bad parenting, it's a fault of poverty, it's everybody else's fault, just not mine. Vidu is the exact opposite. My failings are my fault. I take full responsibility for them, and I stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, Honor Hashem Khatasi, and the promise that Yom Kippur contains is Ki bayom hazeh yechaper alechem v'taher eschem, that the day contains the kedusha, the tremendous Kedusha that it's able to bring from HaKadosh Baruch Hu a full pardon. And this is the idea of Malchus Shamayim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as the Melech HaOlam, is able to give a royal pardon, an amnesty. Because of his Malchus, he's able to give us this Chanina, this pardon. It's interesting, Chazal had an interesting word for it, which is used a bit differently in modern Hebrew. It says, for example, Chazal speak about Adam HaRishon, that on the day one that he was born, that he was created, which was Rosh Hashanah, which is the first of Tishri, he was told not to eat the forbidden fruit, and he ate it, and he was told that he'd done something wrong, and he did tshuva v'yatsa b'dimus. The word dimus, Daled Yud Mem Vav Samach, is used by Chazal to mean this word, an amnesty, a royal pardon. To be royally freed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu is special power of the royal prerogative of giving pardon to someone who has done something wrong. And I'd just like to add that there's one other reference in the Chumash of the word honor, which comes in the very end of the Sefer Bereshis in Vayechi, in chapter 50, where the brothers, after Yaakov dies, the brothers of Yosef are afraid that maybe Yosef will take revenge on them, and they say to him, Ono sono pesha achecha v'chatosom ki ro'o gemalucha. They use the word ono there as well. So this is in Averos ben Odom lechaveiro, ways we have maybe possibly damaged other people. That's the honor of the brothers of Yosef. They beg for forgiveness, and they say vidui to Yosef, and they spell out what they've done wrong. That's the point of vidu. You spell it out, what you've done wrong, and you take responsibility for it. And the moment you do that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu hears and understands that there is a better future ahead, and that is the future of tshuva, and that is the special gift of Yom Kippurim, and the 10 viduyim that we say on this day represent the 10 times that the Kohen Gadol and Yom Kippur said the Shem Hashem. Each 3 viduys, each one had 3 references to the Shem Hashem, and then there was one on the Soyer Mishtaleach, the Soyer Hashem. He said 10 times the Shem Hashem, when therefore we do 10 viduyim in order to capture the great moments of the Kohen Gadol and the Beis Hamikdash, in order to connect to Moshe Rabbeinu and to the Achei Yosef, and in that way to inspire ourselves to take responsibility for our lives, admit the mistakes that we've done, and resolve a better future. And I wish you all a Gemar Chasima Tova, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu should hear the tefillas of Klal Yisrael, and Bez Hashem give us a year of Geula v'Yeshua, and only Besuras Tevas for all of us.